Welcome to Season 3 of Off Script with Sam Monk, Senior Leader of Equippers Church. We're talking about what's worked, what hasn't, and leadership lessons from the journey. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back. It's great to have Steve Graham with us. For those that don't know who he is, go to the last episode. We give a little bit of an introduction to his story and everything that's led him to do what he's doing today. Currently based in the UK.
Yep.
And we started a college there a few years back now.
Yep. I'm into the fourth year.
Fourth year, which is exciting. Got colleges now in Australia, in Germany, in Italy. And our whole goal is to equip, raise up another generation. Just talk about, even the deployed arrows, that whole...
Well, I think... the vision of, that Equippers has had, even the little diagram of the arrow, we've kind of unpacked that, like this vision. We see lots of arrows being fired out. And what that means for training is, one of the things that I love in the college that we do is breaking up people's little boxes. So, we'll have lectures and we'll have, take notes, head content. Then it's like, hey, we did today, put your laptop down. Can we get a guitar? Let's have a ministry moment. Let's do a response, altar call. Let's pray for people. Let's prophesy. Okay, time to go and work on the spreadsheet and the run sheet for Sunday. And so really mixing it up holistically. And so we unpack that with the arrow, like, there's that head of the arrow, like we want to add weight to your ministry.
Come on.
Yeah, there's a certain point like, Jesus loves me. It's like, I want you to have a bit more biblical weight behind what you're sharing and a bit more knowledge of the mission of God and understanding his word. But then we talk about like the shaft is like the character, like you can have all the weight, but if the shaft is wonky, it's going to fly off. What? So again, I love the fact, mentoring and stuff, we challenge people around attitudes and character and values.
Yep.
And again, it's like, hey, if you don't want that, don't come to a church-based college. You can go and learn head stuff somewhere. But if you come here, you're saying, I want to be formed.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the formation, I know we've sort of framed it like a three-legged stool.
Yeah.
We want people to have good theological understanding.
Yeah.
But even the retention of theology is the ability to apply it to any given situation.
Yeah.
It's a lived out theology, and that's why the practical application in a church context has been so critical. So we've got the theological, but the missional side as well is a big part. And then probably, it's theology, application, and mission. Is critical in the formation, and God by his grace is blessing that. But what we want to talk about in this session, because why we do this is we want to really see the church move forward. In every space, we want to see a multiplication of churches and a multiplication of ministries. That's why we call ourselves Equippers. That's the reason why. So I want to talk about a lot in this session is, what do you see is, some cultural aspects of church and what are foundational aspects of church? Because I think sometimes people think cultural stuff is foundational and they think foundational stuff is negotiable.
Well, and I think that's the thing. We want to be conservative in our theology and contemporary in our expression. So what things do you change? What things do you not change? So God changes the times and seasons, but there's a sure foundation that stays. So welcome to the world of mission. What things do we not move on, and what things do we move on? Yeah,
because there's a lot of debate and a lot of spaces about this, and a lot of criticism online. If you hear, it's like, that's so. How do you navigate those?
Well, I think that's why I love the fact that part of our background was cross-cultural mission, because part of that is like you don't get caught up in the external form. You look at the underlying meaning. So whether you shake hands or bow or hongi, you're doing a greeting. Yep. So people get focused on the form, but it's like, no, it's the underlying meaning. So that's why you get trained as in cross-cultural mission. And then again, like I said, the last episode, we're in the Philippines for 7 years, and then God called us back to New Zealand, and I was like, what are you doing, God? Like, my whole life's been training for this. And then I realized to be engaged in cross-cultural mission, you don't have to cross an ocean. You just have to stay in the same place for 5 years.
It's true.
And the culture will change. So everyone needs to become an expert in cross-cultural mission, which means what's the underlying meaning? Okay, what's the form that we're going to express that in?
Yeah, so your study of the New Testament church, what's recorded, what do you see as the foundational aspects?
Well, I think in some ways, for all the complexity of LED screens and church is pretty simple. It's kind of up, in, and out. We exist for worship, fellowship, and mission.
Come on, yeah.
And it's like the forms that they take will always be changing.
Yeah.
But, we're here. There's got to be that God encounter, God moments, prayer.
Yeah.
There's got to be, by your love for each other, the world will know you're my disciples. We've got to, what does it mean to do community? And then we're here to make disciples of all the nations.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes we overcomplicate things?
Yeah, I think so. Well, they say theology. Church is the most interesting part of theology because it's the only part of theology you can actually see, which is good. You can outwork stuff, but we get locked into the current form as, this is what church is. No, this is this is how we're currently doing worship. But in 10 years' time, it could be different.
Yeah.
This is how we're currently doing fellowship, community, but in 10 years' time, it'll be different. This is how we're currently doing mission.
Yeah.
So people get obsessed in it. Like 50 years ago, worship looked like an organ and three hymns. Fellowship looked like the fellowship hall and a big pot of tea. Mission looked like photos at the back of people in different countries of the world. 30 years ago, worship looked like probably a folk guitar and a flute. Fellowship looked like, I don't know, church camps with bad bunks, and mission probably looked like a short-term mission trip to Philippines, which was for us. Whereas now worship is, smoke machines and tracks and stuff. Fellowship is e-groups and cafes. Mission is church planting all around the world. It's but people are like, oh no, it's not. It is the same. This is that. It's just a different form for the same underlying function.
Yeah, it's the same heart, the same motivation, but it's expressed in
Are you connecting with God? Are you being loving community? And are you changing your world?
That's great. Those three things there. In terms of there's a lot of stuff around peripheral issues rather than things that are central, and it's easy to get caught up in those debates and those arguments. I don't know what you've done just over the years to come back to make sure you're focused on the right things, because a person like you does a lot of reading. You read wide. You read deep into things. How have you simplified that? Because we want to be we're well read.
Yeah. I often used to talk about that with a colleague at a college. It's like sometimes we'd say, I don't understand. Like, I read widely at the edges, but I've held the center. And right. I think, and I'm like, what? And I think it's this still centrality of scripture, centrality of being connected in a local church, of serving people, and being an environment which, stretches me like, hey, are you worshiping God? Are you connecting with people? Are you reaching out? So probably being accountable to a community.
Yeah. I think that's a big part, just that community side of things that keeps you aligned.
And one of the things I love probably about something like Equippers too, like, I've just turned 63, but I can watch your parents and kind of go, hey, there's still people further ahead than me. And then I've got an e-group of 45-year-olds and they can look at me and go, oh, I can see what my faith can look like at the next step. Yeah. And I really like this intergenerational thing that you're like, there's a way ahead for me to still be passionate about worshiping God, still committed to relationships, still involved in mission.
Yeah, it's not like you get to an age or stage where you check out, done that, been there.
Yeah. So, I was preaching in a church, in the UK church, and this elderly lady came to the front, and she said, I said, can I pray for you? And she said, I'm 91. I've recently lost my husband. I need a new commission. I'm just like,
Come on.
Man, if I'm feeling old, like at 91, she's like, I need prayer for a new dream.
Yeah, come on. I love the inspiration of that.
Yeah.
Just going out, having an adventure. Talk about, because I think there's things that we've got to hold in tension.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Well, and that we often say good theology is often about holding two or three truths in tension, and heresy is normally getting one part of the truth and taking it out of balance.
Yep.
And that's the problem. YouTube, someone will go, hey, don't argue with me. Here's the verse. And you're like, oh my goodness, there is a verse. That's why I'm passionate about Bible college and stuff. It's like, no, you need to have studied the breadth. So oh yeah, there is that verse, but there's this other verse that you have to hold in tension with that.
Yeah.
Most theological truths, like Jesus, fully divine, fully human, one person. Trinity, three persons, one God eternally. Church, worship, fellowship, mission. And the challenge is hold those two or three together.
Yeah, grace, truth.
Yeah, definitely.
Full of grace.
Church, kingdom.
Yeah. And I think some people have struggled to understand that you've got to hold those in tension. And so there could be an overemphasis.
Yeah, definitely.
And the overemphasis. Now, different churches can be graced in the area.
Yeah.
But how would you say, we make sure that we don't overbalance, or is like, anything?
Well, I think, someone once said, go back and read all the verses you didn't underline. So it's like, that's the commitment to, I know a lot of us do Bible in a year plans. It forces you to engage with parts which are just not your favorite go-to verses.
Yeah.
Having a range of preachers, I'm confronted with listening to not my favorite topics.
Yeah.
So that's submitted to community. Doing e-group studies that I don't choose what we're studying, I think it keeps that sense of, this is a biblical truth. I need to wrestle with what this means for me.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just looking for confirmation of what you already know.
Yeah.
And I agree. There are grace gifts, and I think God uses certain individuals to bring out an emphasis.
Yeah.
But it can't be at the expense of...
Yeah, and I think even with grace gifts, it's like, there are people who are gifted as evangelists, but we're all called to witness. There are people with a gift of generosity, but we're all called to give.
Yeah.
So there's a gift that people are called to be pastors, but we're all called to practice hospitality.
Yeah.
So I think that sense of holistic discipleship, I can't just say, well, I don't have a grace there. Like I'm not naturally a practical server, but I can't go, well, my grace is teaching, I'm not going to serve.
Yeah.
Like that's the stretch.
Yeah. I think that's a big part, because sometimes people, will recognize their strength, and they will then excuse their weaknesses.
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate. Steve, small groups, fellowship, that stuff. By nature, probably you like the study side, you love the reading side, but you're a great lover of people and a great pastor of people.
I love my e-group.
Yeah. And that small group context, I think, is the way that Jesus discipled. Jesus discipled 12. And I see it still as a critical part of church. Churches can get bigger, but they can become impersonal and can become transactional. But that relational aspect of a small group is so critical. Yeah,
well, like I'm pretty busy in the UK with the college there and traveling around. But actually, Pastor Mark Collard challenged me to start an e-group. And after a year later, man, it's one of the highlights of my week.
Come on.
These pretty newish Christians, and just seeing their lives transformed and their kids' lives transformed and their marriages transformed.
I would say that for me, having been involved in ministry a long time, it's not the crowds that you preach to, it's the individuals that you're deeply connected to.
Yeah.
And seeing the life change, that's some of the most rewarding part.
Yeah, and I love that within a few weeks they were talking about our group and how, and what's happening, how our group is helping my family and changing my kids and stuff. And it's like, man, we're just doing a Bible study in a chat.
Come on. I love it. I love that whole thing. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more in the next session, but I love how you just talked about how, there's an evangelist, ascension ministry, but we're all called to do the work of an evangelist.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the fivefold gifting, they're there to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. A lot of people think those gifts are there to do the ministry.
Yeah.
Do you want to enlarge on that, unpack anything of your thinking around that?
Well, I mean, I probably learned it all from you and your dad, but I think it's, that idea that they impart something. So I often say, we were just talking today about people like, oh, who was your favorite speaker at the conference? It's like, it's kind of immature. It's like, I'm being given a balanced diet, and I need all of these to be equipped.
Yeah.
Like I need to be in the environment of evangelists. I need to be in the environment of prophets and apostles and pastors, and it shapes me because their passion draws something out of me. So to go like, for me, if I'm mainly a teacher, my job's not just to teach the Bible. My job is to awaken a passion for people to understand God's truth and go after it.
Yeah.
Just like you don't bring in an evangelist to just do the crusade. You bring them in to unlock a spirit of evangelism. You don't bring in a prophet to prophesy over everyone. You bring them in to release that prophetic passion amongst everyone.
Yeah. I agree with you, by the way, when it comes to favorite speakers or they're the best or they're the other thing. It's like, because having done conferences for a long time, it's interesting the feedback you get from different people. People go, man, God spoke to me in that session.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, I didn't get much out of that session.
Yeah.
It's like, but so often in our, let's say in our carnality, we use phrases like best, favorite. It creates this thing in other people's minds where they have to start ranking. Where we start ranking, that was the best, that was the thing. And I'm going like, I found God uses different moments to reach different people and to speak in that. And we need that the whole, not just, the whole body, well, every part.
And the church will never be more mature than the receiving of the mature expressions of all of those gifts.
Yeah.
And so like, I need to be under that, the ministry of mature expressions of all of them.
Yeah.
To be honest, a lot of my life is in the Christian world. So my biggest stretch for me is the evangelism. So it forces me to think about relating better to non-church people in my preaching, to be thinking about the people who need to respond, who God's calling to respond. It's a really healthy stretch.
I love it. I love that picture of, it's team.
Yeah.
As team. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next session, teams within teams. Hope this is helpful. Give us some feedback. If it is, share it with somebody else. God bless.
Thanks for listening to Off Script with Sam Monk. If you found this podcast helpful, make sure you pass it on. We love your feedback, so drop us a line about what topics you'd like to hear about on Off Script with Sam Monk.